I know the lighting's not great, and this is very lo-fi. I'm punk rock like that. Actually, I'm just too cheap and too broke to invest in proper recording equipment. So who am I? I'm CJ Baker, and this is the ongoing history of protest music. So a few weeks ago, I posted a video spotlighting the top 10 heavy metal protest songs, and that was in connection with a list of 100 heavy metal protest songs posted on my website, ongoing history of protestsongs.com. And I also made a Spotify playlist featuring those songs. So as a follow-up, I compiled a list of 50 heavy metal protest albums, which is listed on the website. And I composed a Spotify playlist. And similar to the song list, I featured one album per artist. So just to have a greater variety. So initially, I was going to post this video a few days after the previous video, but obviously that didn't happen. But as mentioned in the video, the previous video, sometimes when people think of heavy metal, they overlook heavy metal's the social conscious aspect of it. Like for example, they might think of Satan and the occult, or they might think of the debauchery of hair metal. But heavy metal music has made a considerable contribution to the canon of protest songs. So right now we're going to get into the list of top 10 metal albums, which is going to be presented in chronological order. And some of the albums might maybe can be referred to as metal adjacent, but they're definitely heavy and political. So to start off the list, the first album is from 1970, Paranoid by Black Sabbath. So just like with the protest song list, what better way to start than with the granddaddies of metal? So the sophomore album features one of the best anti-war protest songs of all time, War Pigs. But the entire album was influenced by Vietnam and Cold War anxiety. Like for example, Hand of Doom, it dealt with the aftermath of soldiers returning from the Vietnam War and being addicted to heroin. Also, both Iron Man and Electric Funeral features apocalyptic imagery and expresses concerns and warnings concerning nuclear annihilation. So the next album is the 1980 debut album by Killing Joke, and it's self-titled, so Killing Joke by Killing Joke. So this is one of the albums on the list where maybe you can get into some semantics about whether or not it's metal, but there's no denying that Killing Joke's self-titled debut is a foundational album which was extremely influential in the development of industrial metal. Like you can definitely hear how they influenced the sound of bands like Nine Inch Nails and Ministry. And also, the album perfectly encapsulates the Cold War paranoia that many were experiencing, and it did this both musically and lyrically. So the next album was released in 1982, Hear Nothing, See Nothing, Say Nothing by Discharge. So this album is considered influential in the development of multiple punk and metal genres and subgenres. So these genres and subgenres include DB, crust punk, grindcore, and thrash. The album is also explicitly political, as demonstrated by both the title track and exemplified by the tune Protest and Survive. So Protest and Survive in particular could be viewed as the band's mission statement. So the next album is Power Slave by Iron Maiden, released in 1984. So this was a coin toss between this album and their 1982 classic, Number of the Beast. So even though Number of the Beast is overall a stronger album and includes the all-time classic protest tune, Run to the Hills, I opted for Power Slave because overall it works better in the context of being a protest album. So the album title and title track deals with how humans are enslaved to a corrupt system where we pursue secular pursuits that in the end we can't take with us when we die. It also features the powerful and catchy nuclear war protest tune 2 Minutes to Midnight. So 2 Minutes to Midnight is a reference to the Doomsday Clock. So the next album is from 1986, Master of Puppets by Metallica. So for this list, I was also seriously considering two other Metallica albums, Ride the Lightning and Justice for All, but I opted for this album. So on this album, both the album and title track well conveys the idea that there's powerful forces behind the scene that pull the strings. So James Hetfield's ability as an incisive social commentator is well displayed on tunes such as the anti-war song Disposable Heroes and the album track Leper Messiah, which is a scathing indictment of televangelism. So the next album was released in 1990, Rust in Peace by Megadeth. So this is the fifth album by one of the big four thrash bands, and it was inspired by a bumper sticker that Dave Mustaine saw that read, "May all your nuclear weapons rust in peace." So that line basically motivated Mustaine to build an album behind that concept. So the album title and the song, it conveys a strong anti-war message, and it also critiques religion's involvement in war, and it also conveys concerns over nuclear annihilation. So the next album is the self-titled debut, Rage Against the Machine self-titled debut, released in 1992. So Rage's debut is one of the most important political albums of all time. And also it should be noted the album cover, it depicts a Vietnamese Buddhist monk burning himself as an act of protest. So that extreme act of protest could be considered a statement of intent. And that personification of extreme protest, the band provides the perfect soundtrack for that. There's very few bands, if any, that were political as Rage Against the Machine that have achieved that level of mainstream success. So the next album was released in 1993, Chaos AD by Sepultura. So on the Brazilian thrash metal band's fifth album, they expanded their sound to include elements of group metal. So the music, it rocked with righteous indignation, which provided the perfect backdrop to fiercely political lyrical themes such as police brutality, censorship, and indigenous rights. So the next album is by System of a Down, released in 2001, Toxicity. So this is the sophomore album of the alt metal band, and it's just as heavy but more eclectic than their self-titled debut. So the album addresses several topics, including the prison industrial complex, police brutality, and environmental destruction. And then the final album on the list was released in 2005, From Mars to Sirius by Gojira. So I was also considering Infest the Rat's Nest, a 2019 environmentally themed sci-fi concept thrash metal album by the prolific and eclectic Australian band King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. But instead, I opted from this album by the French band. So this is the third album. And just like the King Gizzard album, it's an environmentally themed sci-fi concept album. So the album details the resurrection of a dead planet, and it explores environmental issues such as how climate change affects marine life. So this includes the list. So the entire list of 50 albums is going to be posted on the website Ongoing History of ProtestSongs.com. And as previously mentioned, there's also a Spotify playlist which features 2 songs from each album. I'll also post the list of the 50 albums on closing credits. So was there any heavy metal protest songs that you feel should have been included on the list? Feel free to leave that in the comments. Also, I plan on making this a regular feature on the website where I post 100 songs and 50 albums list of different genres. And then also recording a video of 10 of those songs and albums. So if you want this to be a regular feature, feel free to mention that in the comments as well. And if there's any genres you want me to explore and feature, leave a comment for that as well. So if you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe. And once again, check out the website, Ongoing History of ProtestSongs.com. Thanks for watching, and please stay safe.